Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday morning, a little after 11 a.m., so we go ahead and get started. Uh, and as always, we will open with questions and or comments, and see what you care to discuss this morning. Anyone?
Hey, Ryan. I
Yes,
want
sir.
to discuss.
Morning.
They're going through these trials and stuff with Donald Trump, trying to see if he did any kind of like treason, but when he was holding all these documents and things, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder why he was holding on to them documents.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot I think that's not being said with that stuff, Charles, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of insight into it. Uh, Pastor, I heard you come in. Good morning to you, by the way. Do you care to address Charles's question?
Sure. Um, First of all, it appears to be a political issue.
Sage,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Um, it appears as though it is a political incident. However, it's much, much more than that. Politically, it is my contention that he was holding on to those documents to sell. There's no doubt in my mind that that's what he was going to do with it. And I do believe that those who are in the judicial system believe the same thing. Spiritually, it is the undoing of a nation that was formed by putting everyone in his wake under duress, meaning that a nation that grew, that was formed on the backs and at the expense of the lives of everyone except those who formed it. So we're experiencing that demise now. Um, Donald Trump was the um, greatest source of light since I can't even remember. Greatest source of light maybe since Frederick Douglass. The reason I say that is because if you really give thought to it, there has been more exposure about the African since he took office in 2016. And there has been more. There have been more positions filled by African women since he was elected to office. That in itself speaks to the amount of light that has been um, uh, uh, um, brought to the surface. Every time there is confusion brought to the surface, if there are those who are standing in the gap, that confusion will be transformed into light, into order. That's what we have been doing. Every time someone brings up a question about things like that, it gives us opportunity to bring order to it. And no one has done more damage. No, I'm not damaged because Donald Trump did absolutely no damage. Donald Trump actually desiring to do damage has put us in a place to bring order to everything. I hope that helps you, Charles, and others. However, if there are further questions, please.
Yep, that helped. And I know one thing. They got the like the Republicans. It's a lot of them. They stood up for him, and they almost like lied for him, and now they're in trouble.
Now, they lied. Now, this is the thing, Charles, and the rest, everyone. This is the thing. Don't put any emphasis on Republican or Democrat. These are simply symbols. The emphasis is on the message that the universe is sending us through them. Our being able to read the signs of the times, understanding that one may look like they are innocent, yet they are the same ones who were supporting the system that Donald Trump exposed to the world. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Don't put any emphasis on that. Do we vote? Yes, because we live in this. Do we expect a change in our lives because of these party systems? No. The change comes in the lives of humanity because there are Adams, there are Adams standing in the gap. That we are the bridge between righteousness and unrighteousness can be transformed a bridge in righteousness.
So what you are saying then, the word Democrat and Republican is just tools used to manipulate the people, to control the minds of the people, and keep your vision off of what is truly going on.
Yes, and I see the party of slavery was the Democrat Party, and it remained the party of slavery until Kennedy. And when Kennedy started talking about civil rights, Nixon ran. Nixon with the Democrats, Southern Democrats, that they had been betrayed by their party. And his Southern strategy was to move them to the Republican Party. The Republican Party became the party of enslavement. That message has been lost. Why do I say that? Because we saw that historically as being a the last man be first, the first being last. That's not what it was at all. When the Democrat Nixon's Southern strategy was introduced, the Creator was showing us that there is no difference in a Democrat or a Republican when it comes to African people. One is blatant and the other is not. And Trump showed the blatant. He took the blatant ones and coupled them with the ones who are hiding behind the scenes. And that's the message I see that the Creator was bringing to us during that Nixon Southern strategy. We did not see it then because it wasn't time. Now, looking at it in a human way retrospectively, but in a spiritual way happening as we speak, that's the message that was. I hope you understand. Understand is not. Raise the question.
Yes, sir. I got it. Any other questions or comments? Anyone?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. This is Angela. I got a question. I think, a while back we discussed this Monday night class, but my question is, we talked about the structure of the buildings of the churches and the energy that it represents. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I remember it was something like that we discussed on Monday night. And what it represents. If I'm losing anybody.
No. Just want to make sure you're done. Pastor, do you remember that conversation? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly what was said because I don't I don't have the question clear in my mind. However, I can address some things in regards to that. But first, I want Angela to see if she can reshape the question.
It was something about we talked about the steeples, how the structure of the church is built.
Okay,
The
I got
steeples.
I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about the steeples being transferring energy from one place geographically to another. If you look at the meridian of the structures, the spiritual structures by indigenous people, they are pretty much on the same meridian on the earth, the same line around the earth. If you look at the structure of the Washington Monument and other representative temples, they're on the same meridian as well. Churches were built the way they were because of ignorance. And I say ignorance because if you notice, indigenous people constructed their buildings in a circular manner. And the reason they did that is because it gave an easier flow to the energy. They would not even sleep in a structure that was not circular. When the churches were built, they were built square. And that is indicative of the mindset of the Europeans who established churches. Africans and other indigenous people did not establish churches. They established places of spirituality. And the one occupying was the holy man, the medicine man, however you want to structure it. Now, the reason they did not build them square or would not sleep in a square building is because the energy could not flow and it got bogged down in the corners and it created confusion. So when you're talking about the structure in regards to energy, it's not only the external energy that they are seeking to usurp for the benefit of being in control of the souls and minds of men, but the buildings themselves to confusion. And guess what? That's no matter which one you go in, have confusion. And I hope I'm not rambling. If that's not clear, please rephrase it or speak to what you're not clear on, okay?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angela. I was going to
You
take
fine. I just wanted to ask, well, that sound it's like is it like portals that's letting out negative, like you said, negative energy?
This is the thing about portals and energy. Every man on this earth can create portals, can create anything they desire. They just don't believe it for the most part. And the energy that constitutes us, that lives within our bodies, we have control over that energy. And that energy can be used for the benefit of humanity or for the benefit of the individual group. And in regards to religion, the Catholic Church chose to use that energy and to literally understood about the writings from the East, control and manipulate humanity for the purpose, gain, material gain. that was coupled with the government, especially when you look at people like Alexander the Thief and his relationship with religion. When you look at Church of England and its relationship to religion, they are the justifiers of each other for the benefit of gain. So that energy can also be used for what we are doing. We had to make a conscious decision that our desire is to bring balance and order to this earth. Not just to America, but to this earth, period.
Yeah.
So they meaning those who are in control, made a conscious decision to benefit themselves, which means that they are living in the midst of organized chaos, but they don't realize it. From the outside, we can see the chaos, but within, they see it order because it's doing what they wanted to do. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
It just brought a thought to mind when you were talking about the circle and the energy of it. And I thought about Galilee means circular. And a lot of his ministry took place in Galilee. Is that similar to what you're saying? That have a bearing on what you're saying?
It does.
Yeah. Anyone else thoughts or questions? I heard something. I wake up sometimes. I love when I don't have to work because I get up anytime. I get up in the middle of the night. If I wake up, I get up and do something, or either open a book or look at a podcast or something, and I woke up last night and I heard this rabbi in a podcast, and he said something that I thought was kind of fascinating. And what he said was he was talking about the ability of the human. And he said, we are so used to our five senses, and we don't realize that the happiness that you can get. I know he was talking about the light that is inside of you. And a lot of people don't know how to engage with it or embrace it. And he was talking about how we become rely so much on our five senses. And he said, we do not recognize that our five senses can only give you 1% of the happiness and contentment that you are capable of experiencing. 1%. Now, I don't know how he measured that or where he got that, but that caught my attention. Your five senses, he's saying the physical things that we see, touch, smell, can only provide 1% of the stimulus that you're looking for that provides you with your happiness. We don't recognize that other 99% comes from internal and how to tap into it. That, to me, kind of stuck out. That was amazing to me. So
that 1% or metaphor saying give us. And because if you really think about it, from light in us is not what it really is. Because if we are spirit, which is energy, we are light itself. we can ignore we are light and we're body. I do believe that that's the one to talk about.
Yeah.
You have to bring your own happiness. You don't know how to be happy. With energy, the universal light. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when we think about happiness, you ask just someone on the street or somebody you may know, we bring up external things, or my job, my promotion, I just graduated from school, or I got a new car, or my child just graduated. We never look internally at that source that brings happiness to us, or where even that comes from. Because the question was asked, why does it flee so rapidly? And he was saying, yeah, because we
Sorry, I'm just excited.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Everything that you name is temporary.
Yes.
Every single thing you name, even the graduating from school, that only lasts for a fleeting moment. Now what? That new car is not going to stay new. Well, matter of fact, it's not new anymore once you drive it off the lot. That promotion brings more headaches, so it's not. So now, what's making you happy is the check. Once you get used to it, that's it. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Now the list is mine. He just said those external things that we can see, and it made me think about what people see as happiness. But yeah, you're right. None of it is lasting things. So that just kind of stood out to me to hear that.
The other thing is, what's the difference between joy and happiness? I mean, happiness is tied to, as Pastor said, materialism. Happiness is tied to non-spiritual things, and it's an emotion that's tied to something physical. But if you think about joy, joy is present in the now, and whatever's going on, one can still have. We talk about peace in the midst of a storm. Mm-hmm. That's the sense of joy. It doesn't matter what's going on, because the joy is not tied to the physical, but the spiritual essence of who we are. So we can have joy in prison. We can have joy in the midst of poverty, if we know who we are, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, great insight. Anyone else?
This is Monique.
Hey, Monique.
This reminds me of, I think, I had bought up a while back a show. I had moved a news, I think it was like 60 Minutes, and this guy was an architect, and he lost his sight, and as a result of losing his sight, he had to reimagine himself. So he decided he still wanted to be an architect. And what he ended up finding out was that he became a much better architect blind than he was sighted. he could see things and experience the world in a way that he was not able to as a sighted person. And at the end of the interview, they asked him, if you could go back and have your sight again, would you want to live as a sighted person again? And he almost, I mean, it didn't take him long to say no, because he could just see the world so much clearer now, because he had tapped into those other senses that he was not able to tap into as a sighted person.
I like that, Molly. I like that. It reminds me of something when I thought, my first thought when I heard the rabbi speak this morning. The eighth sense to me kind of pulls everything together for us. Those 5, those 6, those 7 senses, and it reminded me of the lesson we did some time ago about being equally yoked and pulling all those voices, all those other parts of us together under the soul, and allowing the soul to be your vision, be your sight. So yeah, what you're saying is he embraced who he was, and allowed that to see the brighter side, if you will, or the for the first time see the enlightened side of self that he had never seen before. And you know, I'm listening to you describe that. That's amazing. That's amazing that he could move to that place. I heard years ago, Stevie Wonder, I think it was, kind of described that, because I think he was like, what, a kid, he or Rachel, I can't remember. One of them was lived as a child and had their sight, and then lost their sight later, and what that transformation was like. That's amazing to me. But thank you. Anyone else? Anything you see in that?
Morning, Ron. This is George
Morning, Joe.
Philly. You know, in speaking of the senses that you spoke in terms of the 5, I, you know, come to know that when we talk about the sense of thought, you know, that's, you know, a sense that, you know, I truly appreciate in terms of us being able to utilize that, you know, awesome sense in a way to create that which we desire. And I know there's times that we're in situations where things may appear to be, you know, division, or may appear to be the negative things that sometimes we encounter. But it's our thought, you know, that creates, you know, the manifestation of that which we can see the beauty in. And I'll just maybe share, you know, an experience in terms of just over the last 48 hours in terms of just traveling. And as I was traveling, heading south, you know, I experienced some reconstruction, you know, on the highway on my way to South Carolina from Philly. And the reconstruction basically delayed about an hour and a half of time travel. But in that moment, when we were at a standstill for about an hour, you know, I mentioned to my wife that I just need to meditate. And so in my meditation, you know, I just basically looked at the stars, and it gave me, you know, a sense where my thought took me to the beauty of the Creator's creation. And I'm only mentioning this sense because I think that, again, it's our thoughts, you know, that we create. And I just wanted to tie that in terms of what was just said, because, again, you know, we're blessed, you know, with, you know, the intellectual mind, in terms of how wonderful and marvelous we are made, but I just wanted to tie that percept in, Ron, in terms of our senses, and I think our thinking is another sense that I truly appreciate today. I just wanted to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, George. Great observation. You're right, your meditation to me speaks to the transformation that we go through daily. There is no limitation of what we can see and be as the spiritual beings that we are. So thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
With what George just said, to piggyback on him, and I was actually thinking along very similar lines. I'm glad he just told of his experiences now. And examples that you have used with the senses, I think, and going back to the rabbi, what I noticed is one can just use their senses, but actually take it for granted and don't see the value in it. And when we talk about joy, and we talk about, I guess, getting more or experiencing more out of the senses, is once there is appreciation of whatever is, in a sense, being measured by those senses, what it is that you are actually observing, that joy then appears. It is a chance, an opportunity to have kind of like an aha moment, to just be, in a sense, mesmerized by creation, in a sense. So when you mentioned the people, I think it was Ray Charles losing his, or Stevie Wonder losing his ability to actually see, the architect that we mentioned, it's once they, in a sense, lost those things, or even that those particular things were not as strong as they used to be, they were able to have a certain appreciation of them. And then once that increased appreciation, they were able to see more, the same way you can see and hear and everything else, from that extent, your senses more once you have that appreciation. It's as if that appreciation heightens those senses beyond their normal, just regular, plain physical ability. Now you're able to smell things more. The same way people, you can smell food. When you're tasting food, the smell enhances it. When you're listening to music, if you're a music person or you enjoy the little small notes and the little nuances and things that are taking place, and you have appreciation for them, now all of a sudden this sound that you're hearing, this music that you're hearing, etc., means a lot more. You appreciate more. You see a lot more in it, in a sense. So it's that concentration and appreciation of creation and the creator that enhances and takes us, in a sense, beyond the physical, that allows us to experience a lot more than that 1%. 1%, quoting the rabbi. I'm done.
Did I understand from what you're saying, and I guess what everybody else has said, that as long as you have your five senses have a limitation, and if you lose one of those five senses, you move more to being the human or the spiritual side of yourself, and that is what makes up the difference?
So, yeah, so kind of. So it's not necessary to actually lose them. The only thing that we have to, or for them to even be diminished at any point, is just a matter of, while using them, having an appreciation. So the only thing that the senses in us are kind of like helping us do is to observe the physical world in a sense. It is us who are, and all of us are, who are more than human, or even if it makes anyone feel better, not just human, but we're definitely more than human, that allows you to see more in a sense. Now these things that you are seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, whatever that you are actually experiencing, they go beyond just the physical sense, so to speak. It's the same way that a touch from someone may heighten senses to the point where it means so much more, and it's not just a simple touch. However, if we don't allow ourselves, then you just feel a nonchalant touch. Yeah.
Okay.
May I? Oh, okay, go ahead, Ron.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What fascinates me about this, what fascinates me about this discussion is that out of all of the five senses, the one that stimulates the most is when you lose the sense of sight. It's a greater stimuli for the rest of the senses because you're more attuned to what's around you when you can't see it. And that is one of the reasons I do believe that the architect that Monique was talking about was able to see clearer because he did not have those visual distractions, able to feel more because he was not looking at those things that could touch him, able to hear sharper because he was not taking his hearing for granted. That makes sense. So?
Also, to follow up with that as well, like when you just explaining, he only knew or was very understanding, I guess, of his architecture abilities, or he looked through architecture, pun intended, through the lens more so of his sight. With what you just explained, all of a sudden now, when he experiences architecture differently, allows himself to do, now he begins to understand different qualities of architecture, like you just mentioned, hearing from a spatial standpoint. He interacts with architecture differently now. But now that's also added to the more limited way that he experienced and interacted with architecture before. So now his understanding of architecture, his ability of architecture has been expanded. I'm finished.
That's exactly what he said.
Hello? I didn't hear that.
I think she said that's exactly what he said. Is that correct, Monique?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, I'm not familiar with the story, by the way.
Neither am I. I just heard Monique say it. Go ahead, George. I may be in another. Maybe all right. You're going.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I know on yesterday I started talking to you about Mikvah, and I said we will continue it. As I think I reminded you guys that we will continue it today if it was appropriate to continue it. It is something we'll go back to. at at some time. But I like to do something a little differently this morning if we can. Uh, uh, a lot is taking place in the last 48 hours or so, and I've been on the phone talking with Pastor back and forth, and some of the things he said to me, I thought were uh, extremely enlightening, and I'm kind of gonna put him on the spot a little bit. I don't know where if he feels like talking or just where he wants to start. But talk to us about what you have felt at where you are now and what you've seen here lately, and just wherever you want to say.
Well, first of all, I function better from questions. So,
Well, do you want to talk to us now?
well,
How's that?
I'm very comfortable with it. I don't know which aspect that you're talking about. However, I will assume that it would be the response to my mom's funeral.
Yes.
I've seen quite a bit since not since I transitioned, itself, and I feel like that. Well, let me go back up. My mom retired at 62. I said to my mom, "You don't have to keep the insurance from your job in the hospital. I'll handle that. I get the insurance. I'll take care of you. If you need or want, let me know. I can get you anything you need. But your want, it may take me a moment, but I guarantee you have it." That was my conversation with her. That was 30 years ago, because she died in 90. And when I went to the funeral, we cashier check to the mortuary, to the mortician, and they handed me the receipt. I felt they gave me a temporary receipt because they have an official receipt that they print and they give in this little pouch. And I was going to remove the temporary receipt from my pocket, and when I took it out, I felt something different. I felt like it was a bookend. I felt like this was the last tangible thing I could do for my mom. And I could not detach from it. Not because I'm worshiping it or seeing it in some kind of spiritual, some kind of unsavory way in terms of worship. No, it's not religious at all. What I felt was a bookend, and from that, it was a bookend from the time I told her I would take care of her to the last thing I could possibly do for her tangibly. And now, this was the first time that she could do something for me on my journey, because this is the first time she is able to see what I couldn't see, that I can't see. Able to show me things that I can't see now, because she's in a place where she can further. That is what keeps me grounded, has kept me grounded. Does it hurt? Yes. But I see it as being necessary. Yesterday when I was talking with George and Levon, I think it was because George said 92.7, and didn't do that. But I don't see that 11 as my mama going through a gate or going through a passageway at all. I see that 11, her guiding me through this journey, through that passageway. Yeah, so the physical, emotional burden, pain, however you want to describe it, is there. The overarching thing is I feel her presence more now than I did. She was in her body, in her home. That presence now on me has given me insight. And one of the things that I shared with Ron that I saw during our conversation is that is Moses. Ron made a statement about Moses, and I tell him I see about Moses that he did not draw anything out of anyone. His name was to draw out, not because he was drawing things out of the people had seen earlier, but he was drawing out of the source of wisdom, offer to the people, them or things out of themselves, because I can't draw anything out of you. I can possess wisdom, and you can draw all those things out of you. So Moses was drawing the source of wisdom. Now, that's what we are doing. We are not drawing anything out of anybody. We're drawing from the source of wisdom and making it available to everyone. Those kinds of things that I saw. And so I'd have my mom with my mom. I know that it was for a greater purpose. Certain things that we desire for humanity. And we have all known someone exits their body, especially those who are close to us, those who don't quite understand what we're saying. They are in a position to see it and feed us. But that's where I am with the trans. Right. Right?
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Anybody?
And please don't be uncomfortable if you have a question. Good.
Any questions or comments, y'all?
I have one when Red was saying that he feel her presence more now than he did when she was here. Explain that.
First of all, let me say this. I believe everything I teach. I believe everything you guys teach. Hold on to that. That light from this third eye. That
Pastor, are you on your cell or are you on the home phone?
no, I'm on my home phone, but I'm trying to hold it.
Okay.
I said I see clearer now from my third eye than I did before this. And in regards to what you said, explanation, Charles, she's back into the ocean. She's back into this spiritual place. And that I am connected to the universe. You are, all of us are. And I feel that presence. I cannot explain in totality or with a greater clarity what I'm experiencing. It's like I hear her voice, but it's not audible. Just the presence of what I am experiencing now. You can, like yesterday, everything that was said, I could see something in it, but I didn't always say it. And I do believe going forward, that presence that I hold on to, that holds on to me, that holds on to us, is going to birth things in us because of the feminine energy that she is. Does that make sense? Or am I talking loud enough, seriously?
Now you're talking loud enough, and what you just said makes sense. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I was trying to explain. And there are some of you probably feel like, how can he talk like this? And the mama just transitioned. But it's because I know that my mama is not in a fictitious place called heaven. I know that my mama is nowhere trying to shake hands with Jesus. I know that. I know that my mama is not sitting on the right hand of God. I know that. I know my mama's in a real place. That real place is where she came from, in the midst of our ancestors. In the midst of our ancestors. It's one thing to say she's in a place in the midst of spirits. No, that's too vague. She's in the midst of our ancestors. And the reason that word is so powerful is because our ancestors are there for us. When we talk about spiritual, that's like a separation. That's a churchy religious term. And for those who have a problem believing that you're African and our ancestors are powerful, a powerful source to us, please understand this. There is no way you cannot be an African. If there is a Caucasian who is Irish, he could be born in this country, 9th generation. He's still Irish because he's a descendant of Irishmen. There is no way you cannot be an African because you are of African descent. And because you are of African descent, when we use the term ancestors or ancestry, that's more powerful than talking about a geographical location. Because no matter where we are, our ancestors are there. And one thing I left out when I was talking about the red bird, we were reared to believe that there were those standing outside of us who transitioned before we did. If we open a window or open a door when someone is transitioning, it makes it easier. This is what I did not say yesterday at the funeral, and I didn't remember to say it. Maybe it was for today. When my sister, my niece, and my daughter were there, when the red bird appeared, Keisha opened the door. She opened that door and walked back to my mom. She took her last breath, and the bird flew away. And I asked her, why did you do that? She said, because our culture says the ancestors are waiting for her to exit not just her body, but this room. And if a door or a window is open, I was more proud of her at that moment than I've been ever. And you know how I feel about my kids, because she connected to this and does not listen to what we teach. She is on the same page with everything that we teach. Means that she's drawing it from the macro. That's why I use the term ancestor. That's why I talk about being African. I am not ashamed of where I descended from. We should always remember that. Say that you're not is to separate yourself from the energy of the ancestors. And no one else on this earth separates themselves from the energy of the ancestors other than us, the African in America, who are more adept to call themselves an American than they are African, when an Irishman would say, I'm Irish American. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be totally about the transition of my mom, but I see so much embedded in that, and I do not mind sharing it. And it does hurt, but the pain of it is not a pain that's debilitating. The pain of it is a pain of pleasure, and I don't even know whether I can call it pain, because I don't miss my mom spiritually. It's the body that I miss, seeing her that I miss. Because I'm always there with her spiritually. She's always with me spiritually. That's always the case. And I hope that makes sense to you guys, and please don't misunderstand this. I could not possibly love my mama more than I love her. I could not possibly say or do anything that diminishes the integrity that she instilled in us and the light that she's given, even as I speak.
Thank you.
This is
I'm sorry I interrupted someone.
Kevin. I just wanted to say thank you, Pastor Richard, for elaborating on a subject that can be very mysterious for some people. In a sense, you gave the very definition and the importance and the value of ancestral veneration. I don't really have anything to add on to it. I just want to say thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome, sir.
Pastor, this is Audrey. I just wanted to add a comment about, you said you feel closer to her now. And I think I understand that because what you feel now is not so much, not with your five senses, as we've been talking about earlier. You feel a more encompassing, like feeling of her presence. And I say that because that's kind of what I felt when my mom passed. And I went because of my schoolwork or whatever, I went to, a few years ago, I went to the county where she was born. And when I crossed over into that county, I had this overwhelming sense of her presence. And I think it was because, I wouldn't have felt like that if she was sitting there beside me. But I just felt this all-encompassing, overwhelming sense of her presence. And I felt it around me and through me. And so I understand what you mean about feeling more connected. And because we're not using our five senses in that regard, it is a sense of, connecting more fully with them. Anyway, I don't know how else to put it, but that's what I was feeling.
I understand totally what you're saying. I really do. Thank you. Let me say this also. One of the other things that we were talking about earlier is that, and I've had a lot of conversations with people in the last few days, but I was sharing with Ron how my kids were at A.E. Money's, all the cousins were at A.E. Money's house, and after the funeral, and they really were just being as they've always been together. First time that all of them were together, and them being there at her house, and the way she described it, oh, it was really funny but fun. And it's funny how it is impossible for a transition for one to exit their body that who you love if you not being celebratory afterwards. What I mean by that is there is no death of anyone close to you does not enhance your life afterwards to something that Roy and I were talking about earlier. They're celebratory. The things, their way of celebrating, that they were in a jovial party type atmosphere. And the church would frown on that because they're supposed to be somewhere on their knees thanking God that she with Jesus, as opposed to celebrating the way they did. And it just dawned on me that that celebratory atmosphere is the same celebratory atmosphere that's experienced in African villages that have not been overwhelmed with Christianity or Islam. Thank you.
Pastor, I understand what you're saying as well. This is Barbara, because that's what we feel and have felt when both our parents passed. And someone this last time caught the celebration of the grandchildren. All of them were in the den and talking to each other, and someone caught it on film, and they just started talking about chicken and rice. You know, it was almost like a I don't know. I was going to say almost spiritual, in that the essence of it was beyond. There wasn't sadness. There was joy. I'll put it that way. And maybe they couldn't put it in the words of the joy of having had that grandmother or that grandfather, but it's as you say, the death of someone close to you causes you to celebrate life more, and that was the feeling. We, the adults, did not realize. I didn't realize they were down there doing that until the tail end of it, and I wish I had been part of it, because they really had a quote unquote good time.
You know, Barbara, I'm glad that I wasn't, because you know the grands were doing that. They're celebrating, but they celebrate differently when we are in their presence. You know? When they are just with their peers, they do it more freely, because I suppose it's because they may feel as though they are disrespecting us, when in actuality they really aren't. So I think they do it more freely and enjoy themselves in a different way than they would if we were there. Even though I would love to have been there, don't get me wrong, I agree with you 100%. I'm done.
Pastor, I have a question. Why is it that the majority of the time birth and death bring such closeness, but the in between that is so chaotic? What are we missing that we can't have that through and through?
I believe that we are affected with what we call living life. And when someone transitions close to us, think about it this way. Someone told you that you could not be off from work to go to your loved ones, what would you do? 99% of the people walk away from that job. That's a spiritual connection. And nothing else material matters at that moment. In between those moments of birth and death, much matters to us materially. And I can equate that to when we were doing the civil rights movement. Material stuff did not matter at all because we knew that we were going to find a job and different things were going to be withheld from us. When you are committed 100% all the time, it makes, honestly, I would tell you that I'm just like you. I wondered about that. And I suppose, Ron, you get in the conversation that you've been waiting for on death and life. So I would also ask you to, not just Ron, but in particular because you've been talking about it, what Barbara raised.
Yeah, as I said to Pastor, I remember when I was a kid, I always felt jubilation at a death, and I thought that was kind of weird. But I came to embrace it, and I noticed it was, people that were close in my family, and being a child, I felt sadness because the adults were sad, but I also would immediately feel a joy, and I didn't understand that until I felt it when both my parents transitioned. I took my dad's a little harder because he had not been sick. It just happened suddenly, and that took me quite a while to get over. But I still felt it. But with my mom being sick, I felt that immediately, and it was kind of one of those things you keep to yourself because it's kind of weird, I guess, and it's extremely personal. But I knew there was something to it. So the funny thing, I'm not in Pastor's family, but I've always, as most of us on the phone, feel extremely close to them. But I'm standing outside after we get out of the funeral with Evelyn and Betsy and George and Yvonne, and we're just standing there talking. And I just felt a joy. I just felt extremely excited, and my energy level was high, and I just felt good. And I sat there and listened to George and Evelyn talking and talking about the books and some of the things they've read, and I'm asking them questions, and George telling me about stuff, and I just got excited, like I can't wait to go on. I can't wait to see what's next. So I think, in my own terms, I think that people who understand life and love and are connected to the Creator, I think they release the same thing that Jesus did. It is life. It is life energy. It is love. It is compassion, and it's there for us to inhale. And we feel it, and we don't know what it is. And my vision of it may be different than yours, but I think it is something that their true essence is released to us, not only in memory, but as energy and as spirit, and that is what we feel. So I embrace that wholly, everything that everybody is saying.
And also, Ron, I just like to concur with what you're saying in our being together as one. And made me just think about, when Pastor mentioned the word ancestors and in terms of Keisha speaking in reference to the culture. And I think that yesterday, was like a thunderous word, from our ancestors that we can truly appreciate coming together, but being able to realize that there's that, African proverb, that says, I am because we are, and we are because they were, and since they were, therefore we are. And I can recall when I know the teachers and when we all meet, there's a time that we may have libation or we may, kind of get together in our own way in terms of appreciating the oneness. But I think yesterday, as you mentioned, was just a time of appreciation just to be in the presence,
Yeah.
of loved ones, being in the presence of our ancestors and being able to realize that we're connected, to that energy that is just so awesome to experience. And so, as I always, say that it's worth driving how many hours to be with those who you love, to be in the presence of that oneness. So it has been a very fulfilling, experience. And I can just want to say lastly that someone mentioned on the call maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago that how can we get back to appreciating our elders? How can we get back appreciating our ancestors? And what can we do to, bring that unity? And I think it's manifesting right now. And I think that this past, and weekend, was a blessing for, me personally, and I think those of us who were able to come together, because it was truly a blessing, Ron, to see you and talk to you and everyone else, that I was able to be in the presence of. So I thank you, and again, with my sister Evelyn, it's just a blessing. So I just want to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, George. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I agree with what Barbara says about deaths and funeral. I mean, and births. I think there's something extremely special about that, and it opens up love in us that we may have forgotten we had. We may be stored in a place that needs to be unleashed in us, and it's something special to behold. So I agree.
Well, I think that was Rika who said that.
Okay, Rika.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rika,
Well, yeah.
just
Rika.
ask if you get clear on that, then, Rika.
Sir?
Were you clear on the response?
Kind of.
Just ask.
I heard you say you yourself wonder about that as well. It's just, I think it's something that we got to learn within ourselves to try to mend that gap in between, to try to work on appreciating each other more in between that time, loving each other more, respecting each other more, listening to each other more, finding that greater bond that in the death will be even greater and not hurt so bad. That makes sense.
I hear you, and it does. Maybe this is the beginning because I don't remember a time when we have an in-depth conversation and bring it into that mix, leaving, as you said, that gap in between. Suppose that this is the bridge. Energy needed for this to become continuum.
You breaking up, Pastor?
Well, kingdom. Okay. Suppose that this is supposed to be this is a continuum instead of a gap between birth and death, the energy flow. And I see that in another way as well. this opportunity. Suppose this is the beginning of a multiplicity of things. I remember Kathy saying that years, Biden in 2 years, Biden going to, I can't remember what it was. Dad, Kathy, you on, right? Can you unmute?
Yeah, yes, I'm on.
Okay. But what you said about Biden, what happened, but this is his second year.
I'm recalling, I'm trying to recall
okay.
that he had an opportunity to get it right, or he would physically leave the earth, is what I think. And
Yeah,
we would
that's
use
what it
the mantra to look at that and the numbers
Right.
and everything and tying that together.
That's what it was. Suppose now that this is the 2 year years that Kath was talking about. Suppose that this life and death that we are talking about, this birth and transition that we're talking about, suppose these conversations are more indicative of the energy flow between beginning and eternity, or continuous energy flow. Because it's not beginning and end, it's beginning and a continuous flow of energy. Suppose that this is that beginning, meaning that regardless of what it takes, either we are going to see a major shift so clear unto everyone is going to experience that shift. And if there's anything that this nation allows to impede that shift, we will see death on a scale that we've never seen it before with the leadership. That's what we are facing right now. I do believe that the mentioning of the transition in a physical way of Biden, if he doesn't get it right, speaks more deeply to the actions of this empire called America, not making the amends that needs to be made for the shift to be seen by everyone. And that connection about the transition of Biden is more about the death of the leadership, the death of the energy that brought this type of new society into existence. So that's what this is. And there are other things I see that in this, in terms of something that I don't want to get in today because of this element. I see this also through the eyes of what I've seen with the Dogon. So that's what Kathy was talking about. And at the time, she saw what she saw. And it was given to us so that we could look beneath it at this point. Do you see that? Especially you, Kathy, since you were the one who brought it to us.
Absolutely, I can see that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ron?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you.
Yes, sir. I can see it. I can see that.
If there are any questions, I wanted to give you a tidbit. Unless there are questions or comments. So are there questions or comments right now?
I got one real. You know, like when you go to funerals and stuff, and we was always taught that that's is a joy when that person transition is a homecoming, a homegoing rather. So why do people play so much sad music just to make you want to cry about it, and to make you feel bad about it?
So that's called manipulation, and people are entertained by your sadness. You were not there, I don't think, anyway. But there was only one song that was attempted. One. And the rest of it focused on what it should have been. The life one transitioned body came from. And that's pretty, I mean, it was just so, it was different. It was a blend, not a blend, I'm sorry. It was a picture of traditional and the spiritual. It was really spirituality side by side. And I did not understand the reason I was being pressured by the pastor to do the eulogy. And there was those who said to me, not only in my family, but Kathy, Ron, others had spoken to me afterwards, but you had to do it. And I recognized the reason is because none of that, Richie, I want you to cry stuff was involved in it. The only thing that was involved was the things, some of the things really, microcosm of the things that my mom did for the people. And the word ancestor was infused in that for the purpose, changing attitude about the celestial choir in the balcony of heaven overlooking us, and that's where she is, that kind of stuff. It was purposely done to change that mindset. So the choirs are there for tears. They're tearjerkers. And we as a family chose, no, this is not going to happen. Honestly, the choir was there because it honored what my mama did. She was in this earth. She, as Keisha puts it, Daddy, Granny, go there and listen at that craziness. And but she come home and talk about it otherwise. So let's just do that in honor of her, because but she went to listen to that. And that's what we did. And then we honored her with the conversations that we had aside from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons I say to us all the time, and we say it to each other, to other people as well, do not try to force people out of what the zone that they're in. Religion, what they were steeped in, but their religion, they've been steeped in it, was out of sincerity. It was not from them trying to manipulate anybody or make somebody follow after them and do what they did. They did it because they were dedicated. They believed wholeheartedly. And that kind of desire to do things the righteous way is counted as righteousness because of the way that they approach it. Hope that's clear to everyone. I would say to you, don't dare move any of your loved ones from where they are, only if they ask you questions, but forcefully would be contrary to what the scripture
Yes, it does make sense. Charles, does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. A conclusion. First of all, I spoke at Ron's dad and had just met him at his funeral, I could feel the energy, and that's what I spoke to. But anyway, when I brought up, and I guess on TV they call it tease, I don't know. I said that I see it through the eyes of the Dogon journey, and at some point we're going to speak to that. Pause. If we understand the journey and the things that the Dogon spoke of, years before Caucasians even knew how to measure or believe or prove what they spoke of, they were always called superstitious and ignorant and uncivilized. But they saw things in the universe that no one had ever seen before. And I do believe that what they saw, what they experienced, is inextricably tied to us in our relationship to this earth, as well as the agony that we have endured on this earth. And I think that, I don't know, that I can bring some clarity to that. And some it may be offensive, to others it won't. But regardless of how you receive it, the truth has to be spoken. That's the intent. We began to speak of the Dogon and its relationship to the star system series. I don't have anything else, Ron.
Okay. Anyone else question or comment? There are two things that come to mind, and I don't think Marlika will mind me sharing this, but Marlika stood to speak Friday, and of course she got a tad emotional, and I thought it was beautiful when the three boys walked up there to support her, to be with her. That was awesome. That to me was just awesome. I wonder, from a spiritual perspective, all of what that meant, what that signified for them to walk up there to give her support. That's going to stay with me. I really like that. The other thing that stood out to me is I remember standing there, as I mentioned, we were standing in a circle talking, and I'm listening to George talk about all the stuff he knows and he reads. And George is a treasure chest of information, y'all, and all this stuff. And I got excited because I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is all the stuff I don't know. And there's a ton of stuff out there that the Creator, that the universe wants us to understand. So I applaud the rest as we walk through another door or gateway, as we come into another place of awareness. So I listened to Pastor mention the Dogons, and I've heard others on this phone talk about that as well, including George. So I look forward to the future and some of the stuff we're going to explore. So, thank you.
Ron,
yes, ma'am.
Can I say
yes.
Also what Pastor's mom left to me was legacy. A lot of time we look for legacy in things, but because of what, you know, the family structure that they have and how the young guys, the young boys supported Malika, you know, it's like, that's legacy. And again, we always look for legacy in things, but the way they move, the Richard family move, how they did things, and I'm quite sure a lot of us on the phone family does the same thing. To me, that's legacy. That's something that you hold on to. It's like your mom passed the torch to the rest of everybody who's left here physically. But that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Great observation. Thank you very much. I think this has been a very good session today. I look forward to the next one. So are there any final thoughts or questions before we dismiss for today? If not, thanks again for everyone's attention, everyone's energy, your voices, and I look forward to hearing you and seeing you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and again, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone have a good
Bye,
afternoon.
everybody.
Before,
My condolences, Pastor.
before you hang up, let me thank all of you.